Are we all settled? Anyone waiting for anyone? I heard that. Okay, this is the advanced section on wig styling. Anyone who was here 2 hours ago saw my previous stuff. I won't be repeating most stuff, just kind of elaborating on a few things. So starting off again, like last time, we've got our character. First thing we need to do, what style have you got? Match a wig to it. Not all wigs fit every style. There are some that work better than others. You've got your punky wigs that Coscraft and Cosworks sell. These are fantastic for spiking. They're really crimped at the bottom, so it gives you a lot of volume, so you don't have to worry about them drooping at all. They're also really great for shaving back, combining two if you need like a two-tone colour, and widow's peaks as well if you need a high front. Back parted wigs, these are fantastic for bunches, especially Sailor Moon cosplayers, Eternal Sonata, stuff like that. It's basically you get the skin top parting on the back, just goes all the way down to the neck, so you don't have to worry about netting showing when you put it into bunches. The bunches are also wefted, rather than straight lines, they're wefted in the direction of the bunch, so you get complete coverage when you pull it all together. Extra thick wigs generally don't find them on eBay so much, more with the specific sellers that have their own websites. These are fantastic for really high ponytails, buns, or anything like that. It's difficult to tell on websites what they're going to be like, but it's generally the Cosworks own brand, the Coscraft, New Look ones are nice and thick. Arda wigs, Amphiggery, stuff like that, you're generally safe with them. If you do find netting start showing on the sides, especially as you pull it all back, it's easy enough to order some extra wefts, sew it in along the side. Where to buy the right wig for your style? Coscraft, which is a UK-based company run by Pez and Storm, they have a stall up in the dealer's room. They are fantastic for punky style wigs, which are great for spiking obviously. They've also got some really nice thick wigs as well, which are good for bunches, doing your own back parting, which I'll cover. Cosworks are the American one, run by Coscom. They've got generally the same stock as Coscraft now, but perhaps a few more of the thicker ones, which are their own brand. Amphiggery is the US-based one. You can order through Katie Bear, it takes about 3 months to come. They do back-parted wigs in, I think, about 10 different colours. They mainly cater to the Sailor Moon cosplayers, so you get the nice pale pinks, the hot pinks, the yellows, the blondes. Arda wigs are also US, but they ship internationally. They've got punky, extra thick ones, the back-parted wigs, which come in 2 lengths actually, and as well lace-fronted ones, which obviously give you the natural-looking hairline that you can blend in yourself with makeup. Then obviously we've got eBay, massive list of sellers. I'm sure most people who order from eBay have a couple of their own favourites that they order from. You know what they'll stock, but you can generally, if you're looking for something specific, it's not too hard to find. They even have a few back-parted wigs on there nowadays as well. Products to use for some extreme styles. You've got the putty, it's really good for the spiking. It dries clear, non-shiny, and the best thing is, if you go wrong, it can be washed out. You don't have to worry about completely destroying a wig. Silicone, a lot of people are using it nowadays. You can do it for spikes, but it's mostly used for making really solid strips, so like the really solid curls, spiky bits, highlights that you can just pretty much stick onto your wig. Downside, it's hardware from B&Q basically. It's not going to wash out if you go wrong. I don't know how great it is to wipe out while it's still not completely solid, but you're going to get a pretty ruined wig if you try and rub it all out. PVA can cause colour problems. Someone's coming in. Come in. Come in. Can cause some colour issues. The way it dries, it can make it look almost like a tone darker. So it's really only for hidden stuff, making your own wefts, kind of the back parts of wigs. Cork, I'm sure anyone who's seen Katie Bear's tutorials and a couple of others, she talks a lot about using cork. It's basically polyfiller in the UK. It's the white squishy stuff you put it around windows, baths. It's obviously not clear like silicone, it's white. You use it for back bits. It's basically a replacement for hot glue without the hot. Hot glue, obviously glue gun, it's just melted rubber really. It can get quite messy when you're doing wigs. You get a lot of strings. I would say practice with it, but if you don't like it, don't feel that you have to use it. I tried using it once and it just didn't work for me, so I switched to silicone and PVA. Helpful tools, you've got your general wiggy stuff, wig head, pins, stuff like that. Glue gun, kettle for straightening, styling with heat. Hair dryers, straighteners and curling irons nowadays you can get with temperature settings. You really only want to use the low settings with stuff like that unless you've got a really heat resistant wig. Try it out on a little bit first. If it melts it, don't go near it. You'll also probably need stands, tripods, clamps. I use the camera tripod. Really easy, stick the wig head straight on top and it stays on there really solid. You can also get adjustable clamps that you can just clamp to a table or a shelf, so you can have the wig just straight out if you need to put it in bunches. Especially if you're dyeing things, you want spray bottles, latex gloves. If you're dyeing regularly, I would say get an organic breather. I was dyeing for about 5 months regularly with wigs before I realised it was affecting my breathing. The amount of alcohol you're using is not a safe level. You really need some protection if you're using it, especially if it's in an enclosed space. Wearing your wigs. If you've got extra bits or big ponytails at the back that are pulling back, you'll find they'll slide off by the end of the day. You can go in wig shops, online, you can buy combs, slides, anything that will just be able to be easily sewn into the front of the cap, all along there. It'll slide into your hair and it'll just give you that bit more anchorage on the front. I've also found if you get gel or putty or hairspray, slick back your hair, just give it a good coating. You can wash it all out afterwards, it doesn't matter, but it just helps, especially if you've got the combs, just to get it in there and solid. Styling. Pretty much the same as when you're doing normal spikes. I section everything off. One by one, I generally work. If you're doing a lot of big spikes, don't try and do it all at once, because you'll probably knock stuff, things will get bent out of place. Section it all off, I work from the front, then while that's drying, move to the sides, let that all dry, and then work on the back. For big heavy ones, you might find they start drooping. In that case, especially if you have a clamp or just an extra pair of hands or some duct tape, tape the head down, anchor it down in the direction that the spike is going to be pointing. That way you don't have to worry about it drooping, flopping over at all, or even it being knocked. Gravity will just help it straight down and you can leave it until it's stuck. Updos. Main thing is if you're not getting one specifically made for the style, like the back parted ones, make sure it's thick enough. There are a few nowadays which are designed for updos, but you're not going to find them that often. A lot of people now, because of the problem, are opting for the short wigs with the clip-in bunches. Although clamps are useful, I generally get an extra pair of hands if I'm doing really big updos, just so you can go tilt, 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 rather than having to stop, try and hold on to it and keep moving the wig yourself. Like with spikes, when you're doing the tail, angle it so that the tail is just falling straight down, so you don't have to worry about brushing everything up and keeping it all in place. It probably will take you a couple of goes to get it looking quite neat, especially if you're tying it all up and suddenly you'll find one side may look perfect but the other side has bulked slightly. And again, as I said in my previous panel, with updos and stuff that are going to be tight and permanent, you need to make sure you stretch the wig out, otherwise you may find it won't fit and you're going to have to do it all over again. Especially if you're using bunches where you have to completely cut it off, stub it. It's not something you're going to be able to take apart and fix. So make sure you stretch it out first. Back parting wigs. They are getting more popular, but you can still make your own if you can't find the colour you need. Arda Wigs have got a really good selection, but I know, especially the hot pink, they just don't do it in yet. There are a couple of methods for back parts, and it depends on what you like the preference of. There's generally the straight across or a really nice smooth crisscross. God Save the Queen fashions use it quite a lot. With the straight down back parting, you just split the wig apart and you'll find there is a strip of elastic running straight down the back into the base of the neck. Get a knitting needle that you use to sew things with, and just use little bits of extra fibre at the time. Thread it through the strip running down until it's thick enough that you can actually part it without seeing anything left behind. It's actually quite tricky to do. There's no specific holes in the elastic to go through, so sometimes the crisscross method is actually a lot easier if you're not got the right wig for it. When you've got everything inside, just to make sure it doesn't fall out, turn it all inside out, load of silicone or PVA or something just to hold it all into place, so when you brush it out you don't just suddenly rip all of your work out. The crisscross parting is actually tucked behind the strip going down the back. You then bring it around and over to the other side of the wig, one at a time, so you get just a really nice smooth parting. It gives you a bit of a stiffer back part because you're gluing directly onto the elastic, but if you've stretched it out enough it will generally fit your head quite well. Obviously the one on your left there is done using the straight part, and on the right is a pre-bought one from Amfiguri, I think. Cores and Odangas, the big balls you get for the Sailor Moon people. This is from Card Captors. You've also got Eternal Sonata, stuff like that. Depending on what shape you need, you really want to either be looking at using the polystyrene cores you can get in Hobbycraft, places like that. They're just little polystyrene balls that you can carve into any shape you want. Other people like to use just big blocks of upholstery foam, fuss shape, which is essentially wadding which you can heat and it becomes solid. It's really good if you have kind of an out of the ordinary shape, so if you need horns or something like that. When you've got your polystyrene ball, you want a small hole at the top and a larger hole at the bottom, because you're going to be stubbing the wig and that will take up a lot of space at the bottom, because you also need to get the fibres from the top under as well.